In today's episode, I'm going to be talking with you about why we don't feel good enough. Why we go through our lives, and research shows that 7 out of 10 adults don't inherently feel worthy, good enough. But we have to step back and think, good enough for what? We walk through the world and we have desires. We have things we want to accomplish in life, but we have this underlying feeling inside that we're not good enough. And when we don't feel good enough, what happens is we start seeking externally for the outside world to fill us, to finally have that feeling that we're worthy, that we're enough. So in today's episode, I'm going to break down with you a background of what gives us that feeling. That feeling comes from a belief in your inherent worthiness. So we're going to talk about the background that builds that belief system in us and why it's so common. And then I'm going to share 4 steps or 4 key perspective shifts that will help you begin to untangle the roots of this, to understand how our mind and our being works, so that you can begin to dig in and reframe and change these beliefs that are in the background running your life, and you can break free so that your inside can begin to align with your outer world. And that's how we create the life that we dream of. Our dream life is essentially when we know inherently that we're worthy and that we begin to act out of that inherent worthiness. Because if we don't feel good enough inside, we won't act in ways that we feel deserving. And this might be triggering to some people, but we don't receive abundance in life not because of external limiting resources. And this might be triggering because we're so used to just living in a mindset of scarcity and limitation. But the truth is that we are abundant spiritual beings. But what keeps us from being available for it is our own limiting beliefs about ourselves, about what is available to us, about what we are worthy of. So when you have this underlying sense that you're not good enough, you're going to close yourself off from the limitless abundance that you could be open enough to receive. See, the law of non-resistance states that we only receive in accordance with what we allow to flow to us. And so when we are in resistance, meaning we have a belief that's stopping us from being available to something. For example, look at your worth. Do you enter relationships that don't value you, with partners that don't respect and see your worth? Well, that comes from believing that you are not worthy of a partner that fully values you. And when we are not seeing that for ourselves, we're seeking with a needing energy for the world to fill that. Take, for example, look at celebrities and anyone who achieves success. What happens when someone has this very needing, external, needing to have the world fill that void of not good enough inside? They achieve. They look for the money, the status, the relationships, all of the things that they think will finally tell them, okay, now I've arrived, now I'm enough. It never happens. So what do we see? Celebrities who go off kilter, and they go crazy, they're depressed. And this is because they reached the pinnacle of external success and then found that it didn't actually soothe that core aching wound. that they just were enough. And so let's get into 4 steps, four key shifts that will help you understand this. Number 1, we have to look at the big picture. What I mean by that is when I was in my rock bottom in my life, when I was in a place where my mom had just died, this was a couple of years ago, it was the lowest point that I had ever been. My mom had died, my marriage was collapsing, there were so many things that were coming to the surface in my life. I felt so unworthy. I felt like my life had come to nothing of value. I felt like I had nothing to stand on. And I am someone who's always been a believer that we are spiritual beings, that there is something, a greater power in this universe that we are a part of, that we are co-creators with. And when I was at my rock bottom, I pulled away from all of the external noise, all of the messages and the scripts and the roles. It was out of a survival, out of a need to just protect and go inward. But what I didn't realize I was doing was I was quieting all of the noise, everything that I had relied on for the fulfillment, to meet those needs for my approval and validation and people pleasing, because I had been seeking my whole life just to finally feel good enough, just to finally feel like who I was at my core was inherently valuable. And when I met my bottom, I had to redefine what my value was. And so I met face to face with my inherent feeling of unworthiness. What I did was I started getting quiet. I cocooned myself from the outer world, because when we do that, we can start to hear our higher self. And this is what I want you to see with the bigger picture. We are a dual being. See, we have 2 parts of ourselves. We have our ego, which is our carnal, logical mind. That is the mind part of us that reasons. We reason. We look out at the 3D world and we take that in and we make sense of that. And out of that, we tend to act. So out of that comes our logical mind. When we talk about reality, that's our logical mind that is making decisions only out of what we can see with our senses that is available to us. But we have a higher self. We have that part of us that is a divine nature. See, we have the divine within us. We have a conscious. Our conscious mind is our logical reasoning mind. But then we have our super conscious mind. And that is the higher self part of us. And I want you to know that we all have access to that part. That is our intuitive being. When you get intuitive nudges of wisdom, like little breadcrumbs coming from somewhere, it is coming from that higher self within you. And that higher self, that is the part of you that knows that you are inherently worthy. Because here's the truth. Every one of us, every one of you, every one of all of us, you were born worthy. You came to this earth. You had a full feeling of wholeness and worth. There was nothing you did when you arrived here as a newborn to feel worthy. And that is, you came from the divine cosmos, from the infinite universe. And you came here to fully express that into the world. You were an abundant, divine, limitless being when you came. Who knew you were worthy? Just like if you have an animal or a cat, there's nothing that you expect your animal to do to feel worthy. They're just worthy because they exist. So we're going to get back to this core belief by moving into your intuitive higher thinking. See, what happens is you're born and you go through this world, and this leads us into step 2. You learned to think you weren't worthy enough or good enough because of programming. See, when we come into this world, we are in a theta state. Our brain, we are in a largely unconscious state. And that allows us to be programmed and to learn very, very quickly. And so our subconscious mind, the part of us that is running the beliefs and the programs behind the scene, it is very quickly and easily programmed. But the issue is, we come here as a divine, infinite, worthy being, and then we land on this 3D plane. And so our mind is immediately bombarded by limitation, because in all honesty, we're cared by people, our authority and our caregivers, who have their own limitations. And when those limitations are imposed on us, we learn to believe we must perform, we must act in certain ways to get our worthiness. So we are hurt by traumas and ways that we might be told as children that parts of us aren't good enough. I think of when I was a child, when I spoke out, when I said things that were honest, unedited, and truthful, I was punished because I was speaking something that my outer environment, my caregivers, did not want to see or face. And so I learned to suppress the truth within me. I learned that if I spoke up, I was a problem. So for you, it could be anything. It could be you learned that your emotions were a problem. You learned that components of your divine personhood, your personality, were not favored, were not approved of. Maybe you learned that you had to perform and get good grades in order to receive love. So you learned that if you didn't perform, you weren't good enough. So from a very young age, we are programmed to perform externally to receive the worthiness. So we are programmed into a victim consciousness, and we learn to live out of that ego part of us that says, I have to do this in order to receive worth. So what we do is we abandon that higher part of us, that intuitive, self-trusting nature, because we are learning from the outside world that we can't trust that part of us. We can't trust the higher self. We grow up and we keep performing. We put on masks to look acceptable, and we only show those acceptable parts. But the parts of us that we don't feel are lovable, we repress and we push and shove them down. We shut them away. And those parts become shadows within us, our shadow self. And it's the inner child within that has unmet needs and feels wounded and remembers that there's a part of you that grows up and it's still within you. And she remembers, I remember not feeling good enough. I remember, and there's a pain that sits in there, and it's like a block within you because it's an unmet need. You don't feel like all of you is acceptable. So when we live out of this, we can never go towards the life we truly desire because we're acting out of fear. We are acting in ways just to soothe that aching wound, but we can't act out of a love. And so we stay stuck seeking something out there. And childhood is so powerful, and for a long time, I was really resentful that I had a lot of dysfunction and trauma and so many things put on me as a child, and that my programming, I thought I was inherently broken. That I was broken because I didn't get the life that I needed to be healthy. And so I walked around with this anger and a victim mentality that it's not fair. I was broken. I didn't get the family I needed. I didn't get my needs met. But childhood is so powerful. It's the beginning of who we believe we are. There's a really good experiment. It's called the still face experiment. I learned about it when I was in grad school. And researchers take a mother and a child and put them together in a room, and they have the mother first mirror the child's expressions and just make eye contact and be engaging. And the child feels safe and attached to the mother because as children, we have a primal need to see our caregivers as our safety. So we will do anything to stay in that safe attachment with them. So then they took the mother and they told her to turn away from the baby. So the baby was trying to get the mother's attention. Baby was beginning to get restless and unsettled as the mother didn't make eye contact. She just turned away. And what you see in the video is the baby become dysregulated in his nervous system because he is relying on his mother to mirror safety back to him. So if you had a childhood where safety wasn't mirrored to you, what we do as children is we detach from ourselves. We inherently will believe there's something wrong with me because we will not look at the primal caregiver that we rely on to stay alive as something's wrong with them. That's just how our brain works when we're small. So this is important to understand where this belief came from. It was never that you are broken. It's that you were programmed by a society, systems, caregivers that in their own woundedness taught you that your validation, your enoughness needed to be earned. And so that leads us into step 3. It's so important to begin healing that you stop suppressing those parts of you. Think of it like being at a cafeteria table. All these little parts, all these girls. What we do when we are suppressing parts of us is we are taking little girls and saying, you're not allowed to sit here. We are practicing self-abuse. So we need to take all those parts of us and we have to face the pain. So what we're used to doing is outsourcing our validation. Somebody love me, somebody tell me I'm enough. Somebody, if I do this, am I enough? Then will this part of me be invited to the table? But it is your job to bring all parts of that little girl back to the table. Is there a part of you that just feels like she hides? There's parts of all of us that we have hidden because we don't feel like they're enough. And what that does is it brings shame. Shame, that's the shame is what we feel. And when we feel that shame, we abandon ourselves more. So the key is that we need to go towards the pain, face that emotion, and begin to bring all of us together and tell that little girl that you're accepted. You were always worthy. Begin to change this inner dialogue. So what we are doing is changing the relationship you have with all yourself, all parts of you. And this is something that internal family systems teaches, that we are made up of parts. And what happens is parts of us get fragmented and they go into the shadows. So it's really important to start asking yourself, do some shadow work and begin accepting all the parts of you. Because if you have this feeling that you are not good enough, there's parts of you that you feel like you can't be authentic with. Think of what would happen if all of you showed up, if you were fully and authentically yourself. Many of us cringe at the idea because we don't think all parts of us would be loved. And that leads us to step 4. And I'm so passionate about this because I have seen the way this has personally changed my life. And that you must become your own divine, loving parent. Your own loving inner mother. See, your mind, think of it like a garden. You came here to earth with this beautiful, luscious garden of your brain. And what happens is that some of the weeds there were weeds that got planted in you through those wounds. And out of those wounds, you formed beliefs. And beliefs are just decisions that we make when we react out of the pain. But you have the power to begin building a new belief. And that begins by loving yourself as a mother. See, you are the garden, which means you are the gardener and you are the seed. You have the power as the parent to begin loving those parts, that inner child within you. So that means we take radical ownership over what we allow ourselves to be thinking. And I say divine loving parent because it's important to remember that you have that higher self. So when you are going into a primal state, which is lower state emotions like fear, like scarcity, like lack and limitation and unworthiness, you're living out of that ego self. You're going into those old patterns. And what you're going to do as the loving mother is you're going to begin having your own back. It's wild when we think about it. And it's so simple when I started doing it. But it was difficult to begin because I was so used to the pattern of beating myself up, of abandoning myself, of ignoring my needs. I was treating my own inner children like I didn't care about them. I would never treat my children the way I treated that part of myself. So I began a journey of repeating and telling myself all of the things that the healthiest, loving parent would say to their child. And what do children need more than anything? They need to know that they are unconditionally accepted and approved for all parts of them. For flaws, weaknesses, strengths, and that they are not worthy because of what they do. And so your job to begin to let this old belief fall away is to transplant in your garden as the gardener. New seeds, new beliefs that you were always worthy. And that when you begin to pour that shower of life onto yourself, when you begin to sit quietly, and what happens when you sit quietly and you meditate is you become separate from that ego mind. You separate yourself and become the observer of your mind. Because this is so important. We are not our minds. We are not just our minds controlled by the thoughts. You have the power to change your thoughts by changing your beliefs. And when you get in touch, when you sit quietly and begin meditating and visualizing your higher self, who you came here, inherently worthy is as your birthright, you begin to feel again. You begin to bring all parts of you online and to pour that love out and to tell them, I've got your back. I have got your back. And no matter what, I will tune in and begin to listen to the parts of myself that I got so used to abandoning. And as we tune in and we begin listening to that inner voice again, we are beginning to co-create with the universe, with the Creator, with that divine within us. And as you begin to align inside again with who you are, an inherently divine, worthy being, you will begin to act out of that place. And you will stop seeking approval, everything from the outside. And what will happen is you will start to see on the outside, mirroring what's happening inside. These are the laws of the universe. The work, it happens in here. Nothing out there will ever change your belief in here. We change our belief in here, and then it manifests outside, because we begin to act differently when we believe differently. So I hope that this gave you some background. This gave you some understanding. And this gave you hope to know that you are not broken. You are not broken. I lived so much of my life believing this is just what was. I lived in scarcity and lack, and I walked into every room thinking I had to prove myself. And I still will get stuck and fall back into those old patterns. But now knowing that where that comes from, that those are just old programs put in me by wounded people in a society that is largely living out of this powerless place. Look around. It's rare to see somebody that embodies their worth. And we're not talking about arrogance. We're not talking about narcissism. When you begin to talk of self-love, self-worth, and feeling good enough, people don't often have a framework to see what healthy love for oneself is, because so much of the world is in this soul sleep. And this is why this is awakening. We are awakening to our divine inherent worth. And out of that, we begin to act and create all around us the life we desire. Because when you are acting from a place of love, you are emitting a frequency. Because we are a being that has we have electromagnetic frequency. If you study neuroscience, you will see all the data that talks about how our bodies emit electromagnetic signals. And according to the frequency, and emotions have frequencies. So when I walk around feeling low and limited and unworthy, I emit that out to the world. And what happens is we receive that back. Because our brain, the part of our brain, the reticular activating system, it goes in the world when it finds evidence for us that what we believe is true. That's why there's a saying, whether you believe you're right or you believe you're wrong, you're right. I think that's what it is. I can't remember. But, so when you begin to do this work, it's going to take radical ownership over your thought life. And I want you to sit today, when you get off here, and I want you to begin to get quiet and to give that inner child within you room to speak. And this is the part that takes courage, because most of us, for much of our life, we're used to running. We're running because we're afraid to feel that pain of what that child felt. That's why we run, we suppress, and we repress. But when you go in and you face her, you face those parts of you, you allow her to speak and it releases the pain. Meeting the need, accepting all parts, allows the shame to let go. And once the shame has let go, you build a new belief. You make a new decision about your inherent worthiness. And then you begin to walk in that. You begin to remind yourself. When you face yourself in the mirror and you actively choose to speak words of love, this is an act of the will, my friends. This is what you do. You no longer allow the parent in you to beat up that child. You take back ownership over her health. And when you do that, your life is going to transform. You're going to release shame. You're going to begin to feel this new foundation within that's just filled with peace and love. And out of that, your whole life is going to transform. I know, because I have experienced this in my own life, and I want this for you. So remember, you are a divine being. You are powerful, you are worthy, and you can do this work because you deserve a life aligned with who you truly are.